There are things you find out about your parents that change the way you understand everything that came before the finding out. Most of those things are manageable. Maybe your dad had a whole other friend group before you were born, or your mom was apparently quite good at something she never mentioned, or one of them had a life chapter they sealed off and never opened in front of you. Surprising, sometimes uncomfortable, ultimately something you can fit into the existing picture with some adjustment. And then there is finding out that your father is the god of the, see, this kid had lived his whole life with a version of his father that was entirely functional and entirely incomplete. A dad who was present, who showed up, who did the things that dads do in ways that were solid enough that the kid had never felt something missing, even when he could not have explained exactly what was there. There was just a quality to the man. Something about the way he existed near water. Something about the specific calm he had in situations that made other people noticeably less calm. Something about the way certain things seemed to bend slightly in directions that were convenient when he was around, that the kid had filed under. Dad is just kind of like that and never examined further. The ocean had always felt different to him than it seemed to feel to other people. Not dangerous different, not uncomfortable different. More like familiar in a way that went deeper than familiarity from just spending time near something. Like recognition that did not have a source he could point to. He understood the source. Now, the discovery did not happen through a careful planned conversation where his father sat him down and walked through the information in a responsible parental way. It happened through a crisis, because these things almost always happen through a crisis. A situation at the water's edge that escalated past what normal explanations could cover, that required his father to stop being careful about the boundaries he had maintained for years, and simply handle what was in front of him. The kid saw his father handle it, and then he stood there on the shore with the sound of the ocean behind him and the image of what he had just witnessed in front of him and the entire structure of what he thought he understood about his family, rearranging itself in real time. His father came to him, afterward, with the expression of someone who had been waiting for this conversation for a long time and had still not fully prepared for it despite all that waiting. There is something about having to explain yourself to your child that no amount of preparation actually covers. You can know what you want to say and still find that the words do not land the way you intended when you are looking directly at the face of someone you love trying to absorb something enormous. The kid had questions. Obviously, he had questions. They came in no particular order and with no particular filter, because that is how questions arrive when you have just had the foundational assumptions of your life significantly revised. Some of them were practical. Some of them were philosophical. Some of them were the kind of questions that sound small but are actually very large. The ones that are really about identity, about what you carry when one of your parents turns out to be something that does not fit in the categories you were using. His mother knew. She had always known. Her relationship with that knowledge was its own complicated thing that became more visible now that the kid was inside the information instead of outside it. She had made choices about what their family would look like, how much of that world would come into the life they had built on land, and she had made those choices with a clarity about what she was trading that she had never stopped being at peace with, even when peace was not the easiest thing to maintain. There were others who took an interest once the kid became visible to the world his father came from. Not all of that interest was benign. Divine bloodlines attract attention that regular bloodlines do not, and attention from certain directions in certain worlds comes packaged with complications that cannot be resolved through normal human channels. His father had been trying to keep him away from all of that. The ordinary life was not a deprivation. It was a gift, specifically chosen, carefully maintained for as long as it could be maintained. What the kid had to figure out now was what he wanted to do with what he actually was. Not what his father was, not what his father's world expected from someone with his blood. What he wanted. Because the son of Poseidon still got to have opinions about his own life, and those opinions still mattered more than the inheritance that had just landed on him without asking whether he was ready. He stood at the water's edge again. Alone this time. The ocean, which had always felt like recognition without a source, felt exactly the same as it always had. Only now he knew why.